What if I told you that the single biggest financial mistake people over 55 make has nothing to do with their retirement account, their mortgage, or their investment portfolio, and everything to do with a decision most of them make in about 30 seconds while booking a vacation? We are talking about a mistake so common, so quietly devastating, and so completely avoidable that it has wiped out years of careful savings for thousands of people who thought they had done everything right. If you are planning a cruise, if you have ever been on a cruise, or if a cruise is sitting anywhere on your bucket list, you need to stop what you are doing right now. Because what you are about to hear could be the most important financial information you receive all year, and the people who ignore it are the ones who end up writing checks they never saw coming. Let's get one thing straight right out of the gate. If you are over 55 and you are planning a cruise without reading every single word of what comes next, you are essentially handing your retirement savings over to a stranger and hoping for the best. And here is the brutal truth that the travel brochures, the glossy Instagram posts, and the smiling cruise line representatives will absolutely never tell you. The moment that ship leaves the port, your regular health insurance becomes about as useful as a screen door on a submarine. We are talking about tens of thousands of dollars in potential out-of-pocket expenses, medical evacuations that cost more than most people's annual salary, and a system that is specifically designed to leave the unprepared passenger holding a bill that would make your jaw hit the deck. So if you think this does not apply to you, that you are healthy, that nothing will go wrong, that you have always been fine before, congratulations. That is exactly what every single person thought right before it happened to them. Now here is the first thing most cruisers over 65 never think to question. Medicare, the coverage that tens of millions of Americans rely on every single day, essentially switches off the moment your cruise ship crosses out of United States territorial waters. That means once you are sailing toward the Caribbean, Mexico, or anywhere beyond that boundary, your Medicare benefits are no longer active. You are not partially covered. You are not covered with limitations. For most international itineraries, you are simply on your own. And this is not a technicality buried in fine print. It is a fundamental feature of how Medicare was designed. It was built for domestic care, not international travel. So that couple near Cozumel we mentioned, Medicare would not have helped them at all. Here is the brutal truth that nobody at the Medicare office is going to put on a bumper sticker. If you are stepping onto a cruise ship thinking your Medicare coverage has your back, you're about to make one of the most expensive assumptions of your retirement. We are talking about a program that tens of millions of Americans depend on for their health care, and the moment that ship leaves the dock and heads into international waters, Medicare essentially waves goodbye from the shore. A single medical emergency at sea, a heart attack, a fall, a serious infection, can generate bills that run into the tens of thousands of dollars, sometimes far more, and Medicare will not cover a single cent of it. This is not a loophole, it is not a technicality, and it is absolutely not something that gets fixed with a few phone calls after you get home. This is the reality of cruising without proper travel insurance, and understanding it before you book could be the single most important financial decision you make before setting sail. Here is the uncomfortable truth that cruise lines are not exactly rushing to put in their brochures. One unexpected illness or injury in the middle of the ocean could cost you more money than the entire vacation itself. We are talking about a scenario where you board a ship feeling like a carefree traveler and step off weeks later with a medical bill that looks more like a mortgage payment. And the worst part? Most people cruising right now have absolutely zero financial protection against that possibility. No travel insurance, no backup plan, nothing. just a credit card and a prayer. So, if you are someone who has ever thought travel insurance was just another unnecessary upsell, something the booking agent throws at you to pad their commission, then what you are about to hear is going to make you seriously reconsider that position. Here is the part that catches most passengers completely off guard. When you visit the ship's medical center, they do not send a bill to your home later. They do not file a claim with your insurance company and wait for reimbursement. They charge your credit card immediately, right there, before you walk out of the facility. That is the standard practice across virtually every major cruise line operating today. There is no grace period, no billing cycle, no flexibility built into the process. You pay up front, in full, before you leave. Now, if you cannot pay in that moment, the situation becomes significantly more complicated, potentially involving the cruise line's own policies around debt collection and disembarkation. This is precisely why understanding your coverage before you ever board matters so much. Let us be brutally honest about something the cruise industry brochures will never tell you. That glossy vacation package you just booked. It comes with a financial trap so enormous that a single medical emergency at sea can wipe out your retirement savings, drain your home equity, and leave you drowning in debt long after your tan has faded. We are not talking about a surprise fee for room service or a sneaky baggage charge. We are talking about bills that routinely hit 6 figures before you even make it back to dry land. And here is the part that will genuinely shock you. Most travelers sitting on those beautiful decks right now have absolutely no idea how exposed they truly are. Now, some viewers might hear that $50,000 to $100,000 evacuation figure and assume it applies only to extreme, once-in-a-lifetime emergencies. But that assumption is exactly what creates financial vulnerability. Medical evacuations from cruise ships are not rare outliers. They are documented, recurring events that travel insurance companies budget for as a standard line item. Cruise lines themselves have established protocols specifically because these situations happen regularly. The United States Travel Insurance Association reports thousands of medical evacuation claims from cruise passengers every single year. For travelers in the 55 and older demographic, who statistically have higher rates of cardiac events, strokes and orthopedic injuries, this is not a remote fear to dismiss. It is a genuine, plannable risk that deserves the same practical attention you would give to booking your cabin or arranging your flights. Now let's talk about something that catches even careful planners completely off guard: the fine print inside travel insurance policies. Specifically, pre-existing condition clauses. Many seniors do the responsible thing. They purchase travel insurance before their cruise, feel confident they are protected, and board the ship without a second thought. But here is where the story takes a painful turn. When a medical emergency actually happens and a claim is filed, some travelers discover for the very first time that the condition they have been managing for years, the high blood pressure, the heart arrhythmia, the diabetes, is explicitly excluded from their coverage. Not buried in complicated legal language, but excluded outright. That discovery, happening at the absolute worst possible moment, can be financially devastating and emotionally crushing. So how exactly do these exclusions function? Here is where the fine print gets genuinely important. Most travel insurance policies include what is called a look-back period, typically ranging from 60 to 180 days before the date you purchased the policy. During that window, insurers will review your medical history carefully. If any condition was diagnosed, treated, or even simply showed symptoms during that period, the insurer may use that as grounds to deny your claim entirely. And this is not limited to major diagnoses. Something as routine as a medication adjustment, a follow-up appointment, or a single mention of chest tightness in your doctor's notes could qualify. Many buyers do everything right, research policies, pay their premiums faithfully, and still find themselves blindsided at the absolute worst moment because of a clause they never fully understood when signing up. Now that you understand how those exclusions work, here is the good news. There is a legitimate way around them. Many reputable travel insurance policies offer what is called a pre-existing condition waiver. This waiver essentially sets aside that entire look-back period, meaning conditions you have been managing for years can still be covered under your policy. But here is the critical detail that most people miss entirely. This waiver is not available whenever you decide to buy insurance. It must be purchased within a specific window after your initial trip deposit, typically between 14 and 21 days, depending on the insurer. Miss that window by even a single day, and the waiver option disappears completely. So timing is not just important here, it is absolutely everything. Now that you understand the gaps, let's talk about what to actually do before you book. Think of this as a 3-step framework that could save you tens of thousands of dollars. The first step is to check your existing coverage, and this means doing more than just assuming you are protected. Pick up the phone and call Medicare directly. Ask them specifically what is and is not covered outside of United States territorial waters. Then call any supplemental insurer you carry, whether that is a Medigap plan or a Medicare Advantage plan, and ask the exact same question. Do not rely on memory or a summary brochure. Request written confirmation. Get it in an email or a letter. Having that documentation in hand gives you a clear, honest picture of exactly where your coverage ends and where your financial exposure begins. The second action item is purchasing travel insurance, and timing is everything here. You need to buy it within that 14 to 21 day window after making your initial trip deposit. Not when final payment is due, not a week before departure, within those first 2 to 3 weeks. That window is what unlocks the pre-existing condition waiver we talked about earlier. Miss it, and that protection is simply gone. When shopping for policies, do not settle for basic trip cancellation coverage. Look specifically for plans that include at least $100,000 in medical evacuation coverage. Some policies offer $250,000 or more, and for international cruising, that higher limit is worth considering. Confirm the pre-existing condition waiver is explicitly listed in the policy documents before purchasing. Read that section carefully, because your financial protection depends entirely on what is written there. The third action item is one many travelers overlook entirely. Consider a dedicated medical travel membership or evacuation service. Programs like MedJet Assist operate differently from standard travel insurance. Rather than reimbursing you after the fact, these memberships provide actual air transport back to a hospital of your choice at home, not just the nearest facility abroad. For a modest annual fee, often well under $300, you gain access to that service for every trip you take throughout the year. This matters because standard travel insurance policies, even good ones with evacuation coverage, typically transport you only to the nearest adequate medical facility. That could mean a hospital in a foreign country where you have no doctors, no records, and no support network. A dedicated membership fills that gap directly. So here is your simple peace of mind checklist. Confirm your Medicare limits, buy travel insurance early with the pre-existing condition waiver, and secure evacuation coverage. 3 steps. That is genuinely all it takes to transform a potential financial disaster into a non-issue. Cruising is one of the true great joys of this stage of life. The destinations, the sunsets, the food, the freedom of waking up somewhere entirely new each morning. You have earned every bit of that experience, and a little preparation done right means you can walk up that gangway feeling relaxed, confident, and completely present, ready to enjoy every single moment without a worry in the back of your mind. So go plan that trip, take care of these details early, and then let yourself simply enjoy the journey. Happy travels, friends.